Good evening and welcome to the November 19th, 2012 Washougal City Council meeting. At this time, I'd ask you to please rise and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Rose, could you call the roll, please?
Councilmember Boger.
Here.
Councilmember Flinsky.
Here.
Councilmember Greenlee.
Here.
Councilmember Lindsay.
Here.
Councilmember McDaniel.
Here.
Councilmember Shoemaker. Councilmember Freeman.
Here.
Mr. Mayor, I ask unanimous consent that Councilman Shoemaker be excused.
Second.
I've got a motion and a second to excuse Councilman Shoemaker this evening. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Our first agenda item that we have for this evening is a presentation from the Columbia River Economic Development Council. Lisa, good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, Council. Nice to see you again. As promised, CREDC is committed to being with each of our member cities at least twice a year. And so I'm going to kind of walk through some of the things that have been going on, and then also talk about what we are going to be reporting to you on next year and what those goals are numerically. So thank you, Dave. So as you may recall, we have 5 major areas of effort in our program. Business growth, which we used to call business expansion and retention, same thing, but we've boiled down to one word. That's an area of business where we're really going out asking companies, what is it going to take to help you grow? And are there things that we can do or not do that will help you get there? Business recruitment is another large area of effort. Entrepreneurship, lands for jobs, and education. And I'll go through each of those real quickly. The lands for jobs work is where we're trying to optimize the available land for industrial and commercial development in our region. About a year ago, we did a study showing that there were about 13 different sites around the county that were zoned and available for, of 20 acres or more, zoned and available for development. And that's a serious problem, and many of those sites are, in fact, 11 of the 13 in diverse ownership. So they're not even really sites, they're just contiguous dirt. So we have a lack of inventory for substantial projects, as does the rest of the Portland metropolitan area. We know we need to pay attention to that and figure out how to get those properties ready for market. Part of that work, getting them ready for market, is working with our partners at the state as well as some local governments on making that permitting process faster and more predictable. Right now, we think we have about an 18-month period of time it takes to get a permit from our State Department of Ecology. And if you also need approval from the Army Corps of Engineers, it will take you quite a bit longer. Our ports are able to get around this pretty well by working in advance. They can invest money ahead of time, whereas private business owners cannot wait that long to get a return on their investment frequently. We also will be working with each city and the county on the next iteration of the comprehensive plan to make sure that we have land in that plan that's buildable and immediately developable for business. Next. In the area of education, we'll be leveraging the assets of Washington State University and Clark College, trying to get more of those things that are being researched and developed at the university to market as small businesses. Also working with local businesses to pair them up with the university in joint research. Raising the bar on STEM education, working with school districts and higher education to try and make sure that our region is very well prepared for the knowledge economy. I'm sorry, science, technology, engineering, and math. And then also to support the needs of our school districts in the legislative session. Business growth. I gave you an example of some of the companies we're working with. It's not a complete example. My staff wanted me to be sure to tell you these are just samples. We've worked with a cluster of food processing companies. One of them is out here in Washougal in the port. All 5 of them have worked together on energy efficiency projects. We brought in people from BPA and the PUD. They are working with each company to re-engineer lighting and other manufacturing process energy needs to try and help those companies be more competitive. One of the companies is working with lean manufacturing, trying again to get more competitive. We've helped one with site assistance, 3 with hiring and training, and 1 with market research. Other manufacturers that we've worked with, you'll see a variety of companies here. Again, just a sample. Almost all of the larger manufacturers have been interested in working on lean processes. Christensen Shipyard would be one of the first to tell you that it really made a turnaround in their business. Similarly, Karcher here in Camas was experiencing a variety of problems and not even sure that they'd be able to continue to operate here. They became much more competitive through lean processes and have not only committed to staying in their Camas plant, but to expanding it. So that's pretty exciting development. All the companies have worked with hiring and training assistants and market research, and a bunch of them have worked also with market export assistance. So we've been working for the last year with the Brookings Institute and partners in Portland, developing our expertise and the expertise of partners in how to export, and have helped a number of companies increase their exports and export to new countries as well. Okay. In the area of entrepreneurship, we continue to do Pub Talk activities. Pub Talk is an activity every other month during the academic year, really. We do it 5 times a year, and we put together entrepreneurs with potential investors and other interested support people. The next one is next Tuesday night, the 27th. I hope that you'll be able to come. You can sign up on the CREDC webpage. This week we'll have 4 companies pitching their companies and their business plans to investors. So far this year, we've had 4 companies capitalize through that process.
Curiosity, Sunoco, to me, that means a large oil company.
No, I'm sorry, that's a typo. I don't know how that got there. It's Sunmodo. Thank you, spell check. Auto check. It was different last week. Sunmodo is a company that makes racking systems for solar panels.
Oh, okay, thank you.
And they're a very small company. So thank you for that correction. We're also working regionally to inventory what tools are available to local companies to help them grow. Are there any that are missing? And we're trying to organize potential investors a little bit better. We think that there are more investors in Southwest Washington who would be interested in having a closer connection to companies they may capitalize. So that project continues to move forward. Business recruitment gets all the glory in economic development, but I'd like to emphasize that it's really our number 2 player now. Business expansion of existing businesses are really how we think we're going to get out of this recession and bring back the jobs. But within business recruitment, we're looking at some new strategies. First of all, we want to recruit companies that will fit the key sites we have available. So, for example, the Steigerwald property here is a huge priority for us. We want to recruit where we have opportunities, not just wave our arms around and hope that some company will notice us and ask for 100 acres of land that we may or may not have. We also will be working on a relationship-based recruitment plan, building on parent and subsidiary relations overseas rather than going to trade shows and things like that. We'll be partnering with Greater Portland, Inc. They do business recruitment for the metropolitan area, and they bring us leads. So they do a lot more of that outbound recruiting, trade show work, and other things that we just don't have the size and capacity to do. But they are a neutral entity when they refer companies to our part of the region or to Hillsborough. We all get to compete then for those opportunities. Finally, in this area, we're in the process of developing a key talent attraction toolkit. We've heard from almost every company we've visited in the last several months that attracting key talent continues to be a problem, particularly big in software, IT, creative companies, where they're saying they just can't quite get the talent they need to to thrive here. And it's not a lot of positions, it's a couple of key positions that will then let them hire a larger workforce. We're also hearing that in sales management and high tech, for example. So we think we have some good reasons that people would want to live here, particularly if they're living in places where they have to commute 2 hours or homes are abnormally expensive, that we have a quality of life and a proposition that we think we can readily recruit that talent. In the next year, we'll be communicating with you about a number of numbers. These are the key metrics we'll be following from year to year. These are not about our performance per se. These are about how are we doing as a community. These are trends we're going to have to watch over a period of years. These were all in our strategic plan, except for the last one, the number of jobs in Clark County. And it's become more urgent to think about, if we have more jobs here to employ the people who are already here, we will be exporting fewer tax dollars across the river every day. We not only export sales tax dollars, we export all those income tax dollars to Oregon. And if they could be spending them at home, we're all better off. So that's an important area that we'll be looking at over the coming year, and we'll be providing data on this on a regular basis. Now, these are the items in our strategic plan that we will be showing you a target every year, and then we'll also be reporting on that target and how it relates to the East County. So in the business growth area, we know we can commit to doing 100 business visits every year. You'll be able to see next year how many of those were in the East County area. So basically, we mean everything east of the Vancouver city limits, to a point. We will be having 4 business forum events. That's private sector businesses, an event, forums for them to discuss issues on business climate and related concerns. We're going to hold a hackathon, which is in our trying to grow the software and IT industry. That's an event where we're trying to figure out, where are all those software experts, maybe writing code in their mother's basements? How do we get them out for a 24-hour event where they're going to be writing code for others? Figure out who's here, who we've got, how deep is our bench. We'll also be doing some showcase activities with IT software companies and creative services companies to introduce them to each other. The idea being, through networking those resources, we'll make more of what we've already got. We'll be working with companies who are both new to exporting altogether and companies who are going to simply expand the markets they export to. We will be looking to have those businesses create 500 jobs next year and invest $20 million. $20 million. On the business recruitment side, we'll be looking to identify at least 20 prospects next year. So we're just really getting this going again now. It's been a little dormant for the last 2 years. We, at this point, have, I think, 13 international prospects already identified and about 23 domestic prospects. So those numbers are pretty low because we weren't sure what that would look like in the coming year. We'll be doing recruitment trips. We will look to recruit at least 2 new companies, creating at least 100 jobs, with 75% of those being in our target industries, and looking for new capital investment of at least $40 million. Now, of course, one really big project could blow these numbers out of the water pretty quickly, but we don't know if we're going to get big projects or small projects. The majority of the projects we see are relatively small, 20, 30, 50 employees. In the area of lands for jobs and infrastructure, which is the next slide. Entrepreneurship. We'll have 5 Pub Talk events, capitalize at least 4 companies. We'll have network strategies and a gap analysis. We also want to be referring potential tenants to Fort Vancouver in the very small entrepreneurship companies, particularly in the area of software and IT, trying to grow kind of a beachhead. That talent in the Pearl District of Portland can kind of look across the river and say, oh yes, there's an IT community in Vancouver. So that's the theory, that we're kind of jump start it that way. Okay, lands for jobs. We'll be updating our infrastructure and inventory and doing an inventory of current sites, keeping that current. We'll be developing pre-permitting plans. So how do we get specific parcels planned ahead of time and able to move in the market much more quickly? How do we, we're going to be working on reforming various aspects of the regulatory process, particularly those related to appeals and legislative oversight of rulemaking. We want to develop a potential strategy to assemble land where we've got much industrial land in very small parcels. If it's wet, you can't do anything about the wetlands parcel by parcel. You have to really aggregate it into larger parcels and then do some wetlands abatement. And then finally, we'll be participating in the comprehensive plan update processes. So, and the last area is education. We'll be presenting to at least 25 companies on co-research with WSUV, working with our partners as needed on legislative issues. And we'll be looking at the potentials of a research park for WSUV, but that's a very long-term project. I don't want to delude anyone that we think that's going to jump out of the box and we will have a real estate project anytime soon. We're really talking more about virtual projects with the university and local companies. We think that's more reasonable and realistic at this point. So economic development is something we do all together. I have very few times that I talk with people that they don't think for a minute and say, well, you know, I know a company who's interested in moving here, or I know a person with a certain skill set who would be great for such and such company. Everyone is in this together. We have to pull together as a community. That's one of the things that Southwest Washington does better than any other community I've ever lived in, and that's that we all try and pull in the same direction to accomplish a goal. Our unemployment rate remains 40% higher than the rest of the state of Washington and 40% higher than the rest of the Portland metropolitan area. So my sense of urgency about this work is significant, and I welcome you to join us in that process. So thank you very much. We appreciate your investment in the CREDC, and I'd be happy to entertain any questions.
Council. Brent?
Could you go back to the slide with the charts on it? Keep going way back, almost to the
The
beginning.
one with the companies?
What you do for companies?
Okay.
You had Astra, yeah.
You want to do this one?
Yeah. One of the things that surprises me about that is you assist them with lean manufacturing techniques.
We don't do that. We
Okay.
connect them with those resources.
Oh, okay, okay.
So in the lean cases, many of the projects started with our partners at the Southwest Washington Workforce Development Council providing resources to hire Impact Washington to do that, sometimes Clark College.
Mm-hmm.
And then generally the companies went ahead and funded the remainder of that themselves
Okay.
once they got past that initial taste.
Okay, that was kind of surprising to me that.
No, we do
Okay.
not, no.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions from council? Paul?
Just, I'm curious, off the top of your head, do you have a sense of why, or especially in what sectors, that 40% higher number comes? Is that construction-based, or is it broader than that?
A lot of it's construction-based. A lot of the metropolitan Portland area construction workforce lives in Clark County. And a lot of those companies were based here as well. So we had an outsized proportion of that industry. We also, at the same time, saw the manufacturing jobs that didn't require a fairly substantial skill level. We saw many of those leave as well. Manufacturing in the United States has declined in terms of the number of jobs since 1979. So it's really the continuation of the companies are putting out more product than ever before, more product, but more automation. So fewer employees, but those employees better know how to work those robots and highly mechanized machines. A little redundant, sorry.
Other questions? Lisa, I had a couple quick items, more clarifications on the land for jobs, working with the county and the cities on the next comprehensive plans. Is that, obviously all the cities don't belong to or are not investors currently to CREDC. Does this take into account all the cities, whether they are members or not?
You know, the city of Battle Ground has voted to join, so
Excellent.
we're thrilled with that. That leaving the only city who does not belong was Center, and they are really not, it's not that they're not interested, they just don't know where they are with their available land in terms of the casino issue. So we will talk with them, and, you know, and the North County folks have a pretty good working relationship. I don't see us doing specific work in La Center, but with the other cities, yes.
Okay. And then on the community-wide metrics, the assessed valuation of developed land, is that all land, or does that exclude, the ones that you're going to be measuring, does that include or exclude residential properties?
We're only looking at commercial and industrial land.
Gotcha. And the second one, this one, can you expand a little bit on the development of the research park plan for WSU Vancouver?
Well, it's in the strategic plan, so I dare not ignore it altogether.
Okay.
And our consultant that worked with us on the strategic plan still believes it's a very important thing to be thinking about. He wants to make sure that we don't get stuck on thinking about it as a piece of real estate, that we think about more, how do we use this incredible asset we have at WSUV to help spur business. So, for example, when I worked in Oregon, we would have killed to have a university with a clean room. WSUV has 2. How do we use those to help our companies develop new products? And how do we take the products they're developing there in their research now and connect them with entrepreneurs and get those to be companies in our region as well? So that's the research park idea. If over the time we developed enough university partnerships with business, there might be demand for real estate contiguous to the university in a research park. We don't want to jump to that conclusion.
I guess therein is where my question was going to. Does it need to be contiguous to the Salmon Creek property?
I don't believe so.
So I know you had a lot of your staff there at the tour that we did with the Sapphire plant, and they have
Yes.
buildings available and clean rooms available
And
wet
much
rooms
research that
available
can be
and-
done jointly with the university, absolutely.
Okay, awesome. Just wanted to make sure that that was still on the radar. Okay.
Just quick clarification of your conversation there, as I observed that. Are you saying that businesses could possibly go to the university and use their clean rooms?
Oh, yes.
And
But
then
if they had a
Other,
joint,
and other businesses around town that have clean rooms could also partner with others?
if they can develop joint research agreements, yes. Under the university, and other universities as well, works routinely with businesses to license technologies, to help expand the body of knowledge on particular issues.
Interesting.
So,
Thank you.
Paul?
I'm sorry, I had a minor space out. When you're talking about total assessed value, you said you were tracking industrial, not residential.
oh, you're talking about the community-wide metrics?
Yeah, total assessed value.
Yes, yeah, I'm sorry, that is everything.
Oh, okay.
I'm sorry, Mayor, I misspoke on that. I thought you were talking about the inventory that we're going to do as opposed to the metric.
Oh, okay. All right.
So the metric will be total assessed value. So, for example, we know that Peace Health and Fisher Investments, which are both companies that were recruited to this area with some assistance through CRADC, they have radically changed home values in East County.
Yes.
And so if we continue to be successful, we'll see those of us whose home values are still underwater perhaps bubble up a little bit.
And one of the other things, I don't know whether you'll track them independently, but I sure would like to see retail land tracked also in terms of assessed value. Because, I mean, it's a 20-year-long dream in Washougal that we'd have a Fred Meyer out behind Pendleton.
Mhm.
And let me stress the word dream. But that would be a huge thing, and I would think that that's important in Clark County, and I know that typically EDAs don't really look at retail on the same basis as they do
Mhm.
industrial.
Well, the idea is that we work in the traded sector, and that's a little bit different definition these days than it used to be. So the traded sector being any business that earns most of its income from outside the region. So where a company earns most of its income through local folks shopping, using the wages they may have earned from a traded sector company, the level of demand generates itself. Now, with our proximity to Oregon, that's a little bit different equation here, but we figure that if we focus on traded sector, then we'll see those results more readily in the retail sector as well. Things are changing, though, in that, for example, Peace Health, that service center in East Vancouver, is the traded sector. They're deriving their income through healthcare operations in other parts of the Northwest. So there are a lot of things like that, engineering firms that are deriving income outside the immediate area. Things are changing.
So you would track a Fred Meyer corporate headquarters, but not necessarily a store?
Yes, even a regional headquarters.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? Lisa, thank you very much for being here this evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, council, do we have any amendments to the agenda for this evening? Hearing none. Rose, do we have any correspondence? No. Okay. We're at that first opportunity on the agenda for anyone from the public that would like to address council. Harvey.
Harvey Olson, 3903 R Street. I'm looking at the council members. I see 4 of you that were not here in 2011. And on April 5th of that year, I made a suggestion to the council and the mayor that any major issue that would be voted on, that all 7 members would be present, otherwise there wouldn't be a vote on a major issue. And I think right now you have several major issues that are going to come up for voting in the next month or two. And I'm just making that suggestion again, that all 7 be present when any major issue is voted on. Example being budget. That's a huge major issue. And anything else requiring expenditures of funds other than normal. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Harvey.
I've had a great year.
Good.
I'm still alive.
Any other members of the public that would like to address council? Okay. Moving to our consent agenda. This evening we have a consent agenda that is comprised of 6 items. Our council minutes of November 5th, 2012, our workshop minutes of November 13th, 2012, our regular accounts payable claims in the amount of $878,716.84, Agenda Bill 6812, setting a public hearing for approval to apply for CDBG grant funds for sidewalk improvements, Agenda Bill 6912, authorizing the mayor to sign the interlocal agreement with Camas and East County Fire and Rescue for emergency medical services, and Agenda Bill 70-12, authorizing the mayor to sign a professional services agreement with the Camas-Washougal Economic Development Association. And even before council takes action, I would like to ask that we remove item number F, Agenda Bill 70-12, authorizing the mayor to sign the professional services agreement with the Camas-Washougal Economic Development Association, and bring that item on to the first item for new business.
Mr. Mayor, I ask unanimous consent that we pass the consent agenda items number A, B, C, D, and E.
Hearing no objection, those items are passed. Item number F, an Agenda Bill 70-12, authorizing the mayor to sign the professional services agreement with the Camas-Washougal Economic Development Association. Mr. Scott, do you want to take that one?
Thank you, Mayor. Council, before you is a request to authorize the mayor to sign a professional services agreement with Camas-Washougal Economic Development Association. This is a straight renewal of the same agreement from this past year, and it would run through 2013. The expenditure or the amount for the services is $50,000, which is the same as this past year. The only change from the document that was in your packet last week is that at your request, we've added quarterly written reports from QUIDA to the council. Otherwise, it's the same document that you had last week. One thing we didn't cover last week is that the companion, or the underlying document under which this professional services agreement is undertaken is an interlocal agreement between the cities of Camas and Washougal and the Port of Camas-Washougal, where we are partnering. We partnered in the creation and establishment of the Economic Development Association and then in its maintenance. And we are in that agreement through the end of 2013. And in that agreement, we're mutually committed to financially support the organization. This professional services agreement gives us the mechanism so that we can effect payment to the QUIDA for the services that we provide. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions that anybody has.
The reason that council should be aware, the reason that we've pulled this item from consent agenda to the regular agenda is the desire for Councilman Shoemaker to be present to speak on the item itself. So we made those assurances that we would make that available to the council this evening.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we authorize the mayor to sign the professional services agreement with Camas-Washougal Economic Development Association.
Second.
I've got a motion and a second to authorize the mayor to sign the professional services agreement with the QUIDA. Council discussion.
I have some more questions of staff. I read, and I would like to make sure that Councilmember Shoemaker's email is in the record, make sure, because I did read it. And it seems like his concern was we didn't have benchmarks of, you know, the success of QUIDA up to this point, and he wanted to review that before he authorized renewal of his contract.
Yes, I believe that was the gist of Councilman Shoemaker's email. The existing professional services agreement provides for periodic reporting on a number of different items, and we are expecting the executive director, Mr. Dennis, to be here in January to report on those items.
Where would we?
Brent, just totally meaning to interrupt.
Okay, all right.
I think it's a finer point than that, though. We've already, the benchmarks themselves, we've already agreed to what those are. The question is, what are the numbers that are filled into those benchmarks?
Right.
And
So
that's,
the progress towards the benchmarks is a better way.
or the benchmark to begin the benchmarks.
Right.
Of where we've started at. And I think that's where Paul wanted to have that year's time in there, knowing that the first few months we were trying to get up to speed as it was, so that we've got accurate data in order to then analyze against from a year-to-year basis, so.
It's pretty routine, as you know, to report annual data during the first quarter of the subsequent year.
Right.
It's very routine.
Right.
We do that with our financial reports for you. It does present the situation where, at least for this next year, because it's the last year of our current interlocal agreement, where you're renewing a PSA.
Well, that was
when
my
comes
next
fall.
question. If we decided not to renew this, where would it leave us? We still have an interlocal that's out there, but we don't have a professional services agreement. And by the way I read it is it authorizes expenditures up to a maximum of $50,000. We still have to approve it. We still have to ask for it, right?
You do
Or-
that through your payables. We get invoiced on a quarterly basis, and then
Okay.
we do it through the payables.
Okay, but where would it leave us if we decided not to approve this?
I think we'd have a problem. I think we'd have an inconsistency in your own actions, because by your action in the interlocal agreement, you've committed to the organization and to the funding of the organization. This is really a mechanism by which we affect the payment, and it is the mechanism by which we've asked for reporting and for data analysis. That's also pointed to in the interlocal agreement. If that's really the direction of the council, I might have to defer to Don on what, I don't know if he's had time to fully analyze the nuances of the interlocal agreement and the lack of a PSA.
Right.
There's a slight inconsistency between the two in terms of the interlocal agreement saying the first phase is going to be through 2013, then you have the actual agreement with Quita saying that, it's renewable on an annual basis. There is a provision for termination in there which is past now.
Right.
So I guess
Right.
I would construe that to be the.
And the reason we have two separate agreements is we're dealing with public entities in the interlocal, and we're dealing with a private entity,
Exactly.
albeit one that has a lot of
Quasi-
public,
quasi-
quasi-public, but we're dealing with a different kind of entity, and so you have these two separate agreements. In order to harmonize them, you have to basically approve both.
Right.
Go ahead, Joe.
Well, I want to thank you for pulling that from the agenda. Of course, we've all gotten the email that Dave was just asking that we postpone for the sake of discussion. So it's what I would like to ask tonight of the council is that they would just consider that the man had a family vacation. I guess it's like 4 families got to go with him. He sent a picture from Bubba's, in case you'd like to see that. He's sitting in Hawaii as we speak in Kauai at Ka'a. I call it Ka'a, some say Ka. Anyways, I am very jealous, but I would really love it if we could just have a discussion on postponing it until he returns. Of course, there's nothing wrong with discussion tonight, but as far as the council would consider not acting on it until he returns. Thank you.
Paul, did you have your hand up?
Well, is that a motion?
Motion to table, or your motion?
Yeah, I would like to make that a motion.
So the motion is to table
We wait
until,
to act on it, what is that date, on 12/3? Have discussion next week, which is 11/26, and act on 12/3.
I've got a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
I've got a motion and a second to table the item to for action to December 3rd. Any council discussion?
Question. Yes, are we operating without a PSA for any period of time here if we table this?
No, the current one
PSA?
goes through
Through the end of the year?
12/31.
Oh, okay.
We're safe, yeah.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
nay?
Can we have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Boger,
No.
Councilmember Plinsky,
Aye.
Councilmember Greenlee,
No?
Councilmember Lindsay,
No.
Councilmember McDaniel,
Aye.
Councilmember Freeman.
Aye.
We have a tie vote. And I would vote for the council to take up consideration of the item this evening, so I will vote no. Motion fails 4-3. Now, we do still have a motion.
Could I just say that this is, no disrespect intended for Councilmember Shoemaker, who I have enormous respect for, but I don't see any point in delaying this. I mean, it's almost a ministerial act to approve this, and it would create difficulty. Now, I would support a workshop very soon, or some feedback on how well this contract is being performed, and I think we're having that coming up in January. Okay.
Paul?
I would like to refresh our memories here that when we talked about the interlocal agreement and when we talked about Quita, the point was consistently made that this is a marathon, certainly not a dash, and maybe not even a marathon, but a super Ironman, that you normally don't even begin to see any economic development results for 3 years. And Quita has been in existence for less than 6 months. So to expect any kind of metric, in fact, less than 5 months at this point, to expect any kind of metric is, it's just not there. The other thing to say is that a lot of the economic data upon which you would evaluate this is produced either by the U.S. Department of Labor, Bureau of Labor Statistics, the Department of Commerce, Department of the Census, or the Bureau of Economic Analysis, and they will not report even preliminary numbers on the Portland Metro until the third week in January. And frankly, that's a noise number. They will revise it again in February, and then they will report what they will call a final number in March. But be aware they're still revising the numbers for 11. And the most of those numbers are not reported for Portland on a monthly basis, only an annual basis. So in order to generate things like GDP growth or anything like that, unless you want to become the Department of Commerce of the United States, which I don't think we have the resources to do, we cannot develop those numbers for at least several months. And even a baseline is difficult to do. The first day of QUIDA's existence is 1 July. So I just don't see how, I mean, yes, you can create a baseline, but only for 10. At this point, you can't even create a baseline for 11. So I just don't see how postponing this until performance measures come in makes any sense, because you can't get performance measures. They don't exist.
Just a clarification, Councilmember, QUIDA's been in existence for over a year.
Over a year. I thought it didn't start until July of
11.
this year. Okay, apologies.
I can't remember the date of incorporation of a 501c3 entity. I can't recall what that date was. It was not right away after the interlocal agreement. So if you define existence as beginning on the date of incorporation as a 501c3, that number is less than from June of 11. But the interlocal agreement was approved at least by Washougal on June 1 of 11. And then we had to hire an executive director and get incorporated.
Okay, just to clarify, we still have a motion and a second on the floor to authorize the mayor to sign the professional services agreement. Concho?
I just noticed in your email that you said you would have a speakerphone. Was that concluded that it wouldn't work, or?
Yeah, Dave sent, Councilman Shoemaker sent a note, said he appreciates that, but not needed, and
Okay.
we were still trying to figure out, because evidently we no longer have a phone line in this room
Oh.
that functions.
Long
So.
extension cord?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
But yeah, he acknowledged the offering to have that available to him, but I don't know if it was the technology or the noise from
He's
Bubba's.
probably in a grass skirt doing the hula anyways.
Other questions, comments from council? Okay, I've got a motion and a second to authorize the mayor to sign the professional services agreement with the QUIDA. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Moving to our next item, Agenda Bill 7112, adopting an ordinance to institute changes to Pendleton Woolen Mills sewer bill calculations and to repeal ordinance 1428 in Washougal Municipal Code 3.92.020-2. Mr. Dunn.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Public Works is submitting a request to repeal ordinance number 1428 and Washougal Municipal Code 3.92.020-2, which outlines the sewer bill calculations for Pendleton Woolen Mills. The city wishes to change Pendleton Woolen Mills sewer charges from flow-based billing to load-based billing. And recommended action is to read the ordinance by title only, pass, post, and publish in the usual manner.
Mr. Mayor, I ask unanimous consent that we read the ordinance by title only.
Hearing no objection, so ordered.
an ordinance changing the method of calculating sewer rates for the Pendleton Woolen Mills by repealing Washougal Municipal Code 3.92.0202 and removing the latecomer charge for connecting to a main sewer line by repealing Washougal Municipal Code 3.92.0502.
Mr. Mayor, I move we pass, post, and publish the ordinance in the usual manner.
Second.
I've got a motion and a second to pass, post, and publish the ordinance in the usual manner. Council discussion. Brent?
Yeah, so I just had a few questions on this.
Sure.
How did they start on flow-based billing initially?
You know, I don't really know the answer to that. I've talked to several people and I've gotten several different answers. That happened before my time. So I couldn't really venture a guess on that at this point.
Okay, do we have any sort of idea how long they've been on flow-based billing?
Yeah, we do, and I have some ordinance language when it first took place, but as far as the date goes, off the top of my head, I don't have that information in front of me right now. I can get that for the council, though, if you want the exact date that they.
Okay,
The
I
ordinance
guess,
was
yeah,
passed.
I guess I kind of wanted to know why they were on that. I understand why they want off of it. I just did some digging and some information on numbers, and then some numbers that were given to me sort of imply that there's, quite a bit of revenue that will be lost by switching them to the, not flow-based, but load-based billing. And I have really no problems. I'm not against them going to that. I just wanted, for my own personal knowledge, I wanted to know real numbers, what the difference was. Like in December 2012, your bill of flow-based would be this, and your load-based bill would be this.
Sure, yeah, I can answer that for you. We actually looked into this in 2011. And there was a lot of things going on at that time. We were talking about possibly looking at deletion of their pretreatment. So we looked at their we looked at their DMRs, which is their loading, or their I'm sorry. We looked at their discharge monitoring reports, which is what a DMR is. And that, like I say, that was back in 2011. And I do have some numbers back then. We had in August, September, and October. In August, their billing with the flow-based sewer billing was $11,412. And then with the proposed load-based sewer billing, it would have went down to about $10,464. So there's about $1,000 a month there difference. September was only about $400 difference, and then October was roughly $1,000 difference as well. Now these are based, it's a snapshot in time, so when they go to a load-based calculation, there's a lot of factors that can play into that. They could have a cleaning day where they may use detergent or something like that could get into the effluent. So we think this is a fairer way to charge Pendleton. I think it's fair and equitable. If their loading increases, if their BOD or TSS increases a certain amount, it could affect the treatment plant as well. So they should be charged for that extra loading, not just the flow. And it will get them in line with what the other industry is charged right now.
Okay. Will we see a deficit, financially by switching them to this?
No, it'll be a small. It should be a small decrease in their monthly rate. That's what we're assuming. But like I say, that depends on a lot of factors. If they did go offline and delete pre-treatment, then we're not exactly sure, but they could actually see an increase in those rates at that point, so.
I would just add, council, that the primary reason that we are proposing this is economic development.
Yeah, and I like that piece.
Right, and this is
but-
companioned with a reduction in the water rates. We anticipate that they will likely pay more in sewer charges every month when they go offline with their pretreatment. However, that will be more than offset by not carrying their in-house plant costs for that physical plant and having to amortize a replacement of that and saving for that. And so our largest employer is very bullish to move off of the flow-based. Although we don't know exactly why it was on flow, there are some indications that it was an arrangement that was crafted years ago for when they connected to our system, as opposed to being independent of us with their wastewater discharge. There were significant costs associated with connecting to us. We charge systems development charges, and there was an arrangement that was arrived at that was unique for this connector, and it involved using a flow-based charge for wastewater as opposed to the normal and standard load-based approach. But exactly why that happened, we don't have that information.
Okay.
Yeah, I was around then. Was kind of a little bit involved in that. I know it was negotiated between the Public Works Department with consultants and with Pendleton, because their connection fee was extremely high, and we wanted to work something out with them that was fair to the city and fair to them, so.
And I think that was what I mentioned in workshop, but I didn't have, all the facts. So I assumed it was from that portion when they did connect, that they did get some sort of discount in rates, not wanting to pay, extra on their rates versus the connection charge, so.
Thank you.
Brent?
I couldn't help, Mr. Dunn, but when you said you thought this was a more fair way of, and I don't disagree with that. But this is kind of off topic a little bit, but one of the things I've been noodling on over the last few weeks is how we generally arrive at our utility charges. I mean, I can use lots more water, lots less water, and it's the same charge every month. I'd like some kind of report or some kind of short workshop at some point about how we've come at those rates and what flexibility we have to set rates, because it's obviously something that we're going to have to face. We've added a lot. Rates are going up substantially, and I wonder if there's any more flexibility or leeway we have. I'm talking about residential rates, of course, more than commercial rates. But I'd like to have a discussion about that, and also while I'm on the topic, our utility tax too. I'd like to find out how that's imposed and the rates and what flexibility we have on that as well.
Paul?
First, let me second your interest in a workshop on how we set rates. I mean, ever since I've been on council, which is over 5 years now, we are promised at least every 6 months a cost of service study to tell us where we're at on how much we charge for water and wastewater. I've yet to see one. That said, is it true that Pendleton Woolen Mills is called out by name in the existing ordinance?
I think they were.
Yeah, that question was asked during the workshop and answered.
So by passing this, we put them in the same category as any other industrial user as opposed to calling them out by name. As a city attorney, do you have a problem with calling them out by name?
Be better to have them be in the same basic boat as anybody else in their same position, correct?
Thank you.
Well, I have, as a city attorney in a different setting, I have a problem with it because it's called special legislation. And if you have right legislation for targeting one individual, subject to challenge. So,
This will clean that up.
yeah.
Other questions, comments from council? Okay, I've got a motion and a second to pass, post, and publish the ordinance in the usual manner. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Takes us to Agenda Bill 7212, an amendment to Washougal Municipal Code 3.91.10, Washougal Municipal Code 3.91.010-10, modifying the existing high-use rates for high water users in the city of Washougal. Jim?
Yes, Public Works is submitting a request to amend Washougal Municipal Code 3.91.010-10 in order to modify the existing user rates for high water users in the city of Washougal. And it is our intention to enhance economic development by reducing these rates. And the recommended action is to read the ordinance by title only, pass, post, and publish in the usual manner.
Mr. Mayor, I ask unanimous consent that we read the ordinance by title only.
Hearing no objection, so ordered.
An ordinance amending Washougal Municipal Code 3.91.010 sub 10 to modify the existing high use rates for water users in the city of Washougal.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we pass, post, and publish the ordinance in the usual manner.
Second.
I've got a motion and a second to pass, post, and publish the ordinance in the usual manner. Council discussion. Joyce?
I'd like to know how many high water users we have in the city of Washougal.
Yeah, that's a good question. It's difficult to define. We look at it as a high water user is anything over a 2-inch meter size because their base rates change based on meter size. So we have this table here, but the highlighted portion in the table is really what the amendment to the ordinance is going to be. So that portion.
What type of business qualifies for that? Is that like beauty salons or dog wash? I mean, who uses the water?
Yeah, it is difficult to describe the high water user because everybody is on the same rate schedule. When you go to 0 to 50,000, it's either residential customer or a commercial user, I guess you could say. So I don't know if that answers your question, but
Not quite. Is a family of 8 or 10, are they high water users? I mean,
Not typically by meter size and water line size.
Okay.
2-inch and larger is going to be Pendleton. It's going to be exterior wood. It's going to be
Yes.
the Sapphire plant.
But
Our
it
restaurant
says-
even our restaurant over in Lake Oswego, we had a 2-inch line because we had so many outlets throughout a vast building.
Okay, thank you.
it says high water user, but it really what the discount is it's based on meter size.
Okay.
So you get a certain number of units depending on your meter size. So as it goes up, like Pendleton gets 500 units of water in their base charge. So if they use 500 units of water, they don't get charged anymore. But when they go over that 500 units of water, then they start getting charged more accordingly. So the term is difficult when you say high water use. And like I say, I didn't write this ordinance either. So
Other questions, comments? Okay, I've got a motion and a second to pass, post, and publish the ordinance in the usual manner. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Takes us to Agenda Bill 7312, the 2013 Property Tax Ad Valorem Resolution for our general fund.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Council. The attached resolution that was included in your packet represents the needed documentation to set the general fund property tax levy for 2013. As required by state statute, a public hearing to consider the budget will be held this evening and was advertised accordingly. Recommended action is read the resolution by title only and pass and post in the usual manner.
Mr. Mayor, I ask unanimous consent that we read the resolution by title only.
Hearing no objection, so ordered.
A resolution levying the ad valorem taxes for obligations of the general fund for fiscal year ending December 31, 2013.
Excuse me for interrupting. I forgot a number 2. We need to hold a public hearing. Minor detail.
Or we can do it after we make the motion.
I'm sorry?
We can do the public hearing
Sure.
after we have
Okay.
the motion on the floor.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we pass and post the resolution in the usual manner.
Second.
Okay, I've got a motion and a second to pass and post the resolution in the usual manner. At this point, I will open the public hearing and ask any members of the public that would like to comment on Agenda Bill 7312, the 2013 property tax ad valorem general fund taxes, to please step forward. Second call for any members of the public that would like to speak to the issue. And third and final call for any members of the public that would like to address Agenda Bill 7312, the ad valorem taxes for 2013. Okay, I will close the public hearing. I've got a motion and a second to pass and post the resolution. Council discussion. Paul?
I would just like to make a comment so that the public are aware of this. Reading from the resolution, the city's levy last year was $3,719,000 and change. The levy this year is $3,637,000 and change. Roughly an $80,000 decrease. That's all, thank you.
Any other council comments?
Could we have an explanation of why that's the case?
That's due partially to the expiring lid lift and partially to the continued declining in AV. So we get capped at the 310, so it brings us to a lower amount.
Any other council comments or questions?
Yes, can we just go over, sorry, you have to recognize me. Thank you. Can we just go over what the ad valorem, the special ad valorem property tax is? The additional 25,000. That's within this? Correct? No? I'm sorry.
This is levying your property taxes for general purpose
This is
property
just for
taxes
the-
for 2013.
Okay, I'm sorry, this is for the general fund. I'm sorry,
Mhm.
pardon me. Different discussion.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, I've got a motion and a second to pass and post the resolution in the usual manner. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Agenda Bill 7412, the 2013 property tax resolution for emergency medical services. Jennifer?
The other resolution that was included in your packet is to set the property taxes for the EMS levy, the 50 cents additional for 2013. And as required by state statute, a public hearing to consider the budget will be held this evening and was advertised accordingly. So recommended action is to read the resolution by title only, hold a public hearing, pass and post in the usual manner.
Okay, with that, I will open a public hearing and ask any members of the public that would like to address Agenda Bill 7412 to please come to the microphone. Any members of the public that would like to speak on the 2013 property tax resolution for emergency medical services? Okay, third and final call for any members of the public that would like to speak to Agenda Bill 7412. With that, I will close the public hearing. Council?
Mr. Mayor, I ask unanimous consent that we read the resolution by title only.
Hearing no objection, so ordered.
A resolution levying the ad valorem taxes for obligations of the emergency medical services for fiscal year ending December 31, 2013.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we pass and post the resolution in the usual manner.
Second.
We've got a motion to pass and post the resolution in the usual manner. Council discussion.
I just want to observe again that in this case, the levy is exactly the same as it was last year. There is no increase in the property taxes either on the previous resolution or on this one.
Any other council comments or questions? Okay, I've got a motion and a second to pass and post the resolution in the usual manner. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Takes us to Agenda Bill 7512, the 2013 budget hearing.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The 2013 preliminary budget was made available to the public on October 22nd. It has been discussed or will be discussed with council on the October 1st, October 22nd, November 5th, November 13th, and again, I believe next week, November 26th. After the public hearing, the 2013 budget ordinance will be presented for adoption on December 3rd, 2012. So the recommended action for tonight is to hold a public hearing and schedule for council action on December 3rd.
Okay, and with that, I will open the public hearing and ask any members of the public that would like to address council in regards to the 2013 budget to please step forward. Adam, good evening.
Good evening, council, mayor. My first time doing this.
Adam, if we could get your name and address would be great.
Sure. Adam Taylor, 3255 Northeast Cooch Street, Portland, Oregon. I work at 1700 Main Street, Suite 200, Washougal Town Square. First, let me start by saying that I'm not intimately familiar with the preliminary budget as it stands today, but I do work on behalf of Lone Wolf Development. And I have read enough of the budget to notice that there is some fund requests in there for purchase of dilapidated properties in the downtown core, unrestricted funds. And I would just like to say on record that I'm entirely in support of passing the budget with those provisions. There's a lot of talk tonight about economic development, and I feel very proud to be here representing the efforts of Lone Wolf. I would like to say that we are on the cusp of really turning a corner and continuing to buck the trend that we're seeing in Clark County here in the downtown core. Economic development, in my mind, it also involves public infrastructure such as parks, parking lots, and other attributes that improve the public's interaction on Main Street. And I believe that passing this budget with those provisions would help us and help the city to further develop the downtown core economically. So thank you for your time. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, Adam. Are there any other members of the public that would like to address the 2013 budget? Okay, third and final call for any members of the public that would like to speak on Agenda Bill 7512, the 2013 budget. Okay, with that, I will close the public hearing. Council discussion, and just a note, we will, even though council may discuss the budget this evening, we will hold off any action on approval of the budget until December 3rd or thereafter. So tonight is just to hold the public hearing and council discussions. Brent?
Well, in spite of the pleasure I take in sandbagging staff, because I've been on the receiving end of that a few times, I'm going to defer any questions of the budget. I've arranged a meeting with David and Jennifer next week, and I'll hopefully get most of my questions resolved. And if I'm not going to take up the council's time in dealing with things and just answer a question, if my concerns are resolved, I won't bring it up.
Other council comments, questions?
can I just say I'd like to thank the staff for their help and taking my phone calls and listening and making sure that I understand this. So thank you.
But it's always appreciated when council members take the opportunity to do that. And I've said repeatedly to a number of you, there are two items that you do that are of most tantamount good for the community. One is setting our laws and our policies, and two is your deliberation and setting of the actual budget. So it certainly is appreciated when you take the time to make sure that you know what's contained in there and what all the different pieces are. Any other council discussion? Okay. With that, we will hold that item over to the December 3rd. You certainly, next week, if you would like during your workshop, you can certainly take time to comment on it as well. Okay, at that point, at this time, we're at the second opportunity for any members of the public that would like to address council. Good evening, Marilyn.
Good evening, members. I'm Marilyn Tyrrell at 950 G Street. A couple of items I wanted to bring to your attention. I haven't had a chance to talk to Jim, but I really don't know where to ask this. On our beautiful new E Street, when you head east from 6th, there is a couple of 100 yards along, there is a school bus stop, which means that all the eastbound traffic has to stop for the school bus, which is on the other side of the street, or should they?
Chief, do you want to take that one on? That gets into that center turn lane.
Because of the center turn lane, you're not required to stop. A lot of people do, but by law, you do not have to just consider it divided indefinitely.
I stopped and the man behind me yelled, "Don't stop!" or something like that. Could we afford maybe a small sign that says you don't have to stop for the school bus? Or something to that effect?
Our risk
I mean, the other
management,
day I was stuck behind 12 cars, and no sooner did the bus finish and the cars went along, then another bus came along and we all stopped again. So, you know, I'm loud, but I'm not that loud.
I think the short answer is we need to think about it,
Okay, please think about it.
because you know what's going to happen. The minute we do that on the correct side of the roadways, on those roadways where we've got another separation lane in there, the school district's going to change the route of the buses. It's now going to be on that side, and people are going to go blowing past the bus when it's illegal.
Well,
Murphy's Law.
we have such nice police officers in Washougal. We'll all get to meet them. I wanted to bring.
You are an optimist.
I am, yes. Well, you get to my age, you're surprised by everything, so. I also wanted to make a complaint. And Mr. Boger has made a remark, and I want to support that. We've talked about water. I'm going to talk about water again. I have done everything but squeeze my animals, and I still cannot get, my bill this month is $116. My income is less than $1,200. Now, that doesn't mean I pay $116 every month. It means I pay half of $116, but it's still a lot of money. I have done everything I can think of. It is raining. I use the rainwater to take care of the animals, and the bill is still too high. And something needs to be fixed. I am one person in one house, and I should not be paying whatever a basic house arrangement is. Please. Paul?
We've got it.
Every time I keep complaining, you keep saying you're going to do something.
Call me and I will come and look at your bill and make sure that it is the minimum number of units, which is 10. If it's more units than that, there's a leak somewhere that we need to get fixed.
I've done mine, 450.
What do you do?
She
She has
bill says
kids.
119 units. My bill, when I water heavily in the summer, shows 14. So the difference would be a leak. So give me a call, I'll come over and look at your bill.
Okay.
Thank you, Marilyn. John?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. I just want to make a quick comment. I just returned from a 3,000-mile road trip. And the comment I'd like to make is that doing something like that, I had a lot of opportunity to see a lot of communities, stay in a few communities. And I just made a similar comment to the city of Camas because, boy, I just can't tell you how much you can appreciate where we live and what we've got than to take a road trip across the United States. And I'm not saying that there aren't some fabulous communities and some really nice people, but when I come back here, I'm just reminded of what a fabulous, fabulous place we've got and how it should be pretty easy for Quita to attract business here to our community because this natural resource and this, to me, an absolute paradise that we live in. And of course, I gotta say a lot of that credit goes to the people sitting on this council and the staff that runs this city. And I don't want to go on too long, but when I made a similar comment just a few minutes ago at the Camas City Council, the mayor exercised his prerogative to let me keep talking. But but I think that's about all I have to say tonight. Is just to let you know that I think you're doing a great job and what a fabulous place we live and the stuff you do for our parks and
Let me give you a chance. Where'd you go?
Well, I'm too poor to afford a dentist, so I go to Yuma, Arizona, and go into Los Algodones and get my dental work done cheap enough that I can make a vacation, play golf, and lay by the sun. Pool, I mean, but this year, it was cold in Yuma. In fact, it rained in Las Vegas. So, I'm still waiting for my cut of global warming, you know what I mean? But didn't get any this trip. But anyhow, I'm just going to say accolades and my appreciation, my personal appreciation for the fabulous place we live and the great job you guys do to keep it that way. Thanks.
John, thank you. Next time you get ready to make one of those road trips, make sure and let us know, and we'll make sure that you've got a case of brochures on the area to take and hand off to some of those businesses and plants and that type of stuff as you come back through.
Very happy to do that.
Any other members of the public that would like to address council? Harvey?
Harvey Olson, 3903 R Street. Everyone in this room that lives in Washougal is in the same boat. We all pay for water. And when you make decisions on the water bills or anything else that comes up, you're affecting yourself, myself, the mayor, everybody here that lives in Washougal. But we have to pay the piper. You know, if the regulations require us to do certain things, we have to then step up and pay. So I think what my sweetheart and I have to do now is maybe water less in the summer, like you, Mr. Greenlee, because we water 3 and 4 times the grass every year to keep our yard looking the best in the neighborhood. And if we stop doing that, maybe we can then continue our vacations to Mexico in December, which we missed out on this year because of the water bill.
Thank you, Harvey. Yes, sir. Any other members of the public that would like to address council? Okay, under Mayor's report, I have just 2 quick items for you. One is a reminder that this Friday, the 23rd, City Hall will be closed for the Thanksgiving holiday. And also for your calendars for our December 24th, Christmas Eve council meeting, 6 o'clock right here in this room. We will not be having one.
You felt those daggers.
Officially canceling the December 24th meeting. And just a reminder, the following week on the 31st would be a fifth Monday, and there's no meeting as well.
Can we move it to Christmas Day?
No. But thank you for asking. Items from council. Joyce?
Well, I just want to wish everybody a good Thanksgiving. I think it's one of the nicest holidays because all we have to do is eat.
Some of us have to cook.
No, I don't
What
have
time's
my
dinner,
daughter,
Joyce?
so I don't have
What
to.
time are you serving? What time are you serving dinner? She giggles.
Connie Jo?
What was I going to ask you? Oh, it's concerning the Christmas parade. I'm excited that we're doing it again this year, the lighted Christmas parade. But I'm hoping that next year, we could be reminded sooner. I didn't think of it till the very day that it was announced and I was homesick. I sent you an email and you replied, yes, we just announced it. But it takes me longer than just a few weeks to get my act together. So I don't know if you can get that in the calendar earlier to put the word out to businesses, nonprofits, council. Would you do that for my sake at least?
We can certainly try.
Good, thank you.
Had all intentions of doing that this year, and when I thought about it in August, September, and it just didn't seem like getting ready for the Christmas time, I thought, it's no biggie. There's
No
plenty of time
biggie.
between now and then, and gone.
Gone, yep, I understand that.
Yep.
Thank you.
We are getting a good number of inquiries, though, on the parade, so that's a
Good.
wonderful thing. Any other items from council? Brent?
I looked up the date Quita was incorporated, 8/8 of 11. So, I looked it up on the Secretary of State's website. We were talking about water a while ago, and Rose knows that I had a little issue at my own home with water, and I'm dreading my water bill because there was a very heavy flow that it was beyond my control. And I learned from Public Works Department that the city, if you have a leak, will pay for half of the over. So I'm dreading the bill. I haven't gotten it yet myself, so I might see something like Karen just saw.
Any other items from council? Paul?
I just wanted to mention that the mayor and I went up to CTAC for the Association of Washington Cities Legislative Conference. And the Association of Washington Cities, really their primary legislative agenda this year is flexibility for the cities, both to remove some of the restrictions on the money that we do have, which is typically very narrowly constrained. But we also spent a long time listening to several legislators who are in the process of looking at budgets for the next 2 years. And to put a fine point on it, the news is terrible. That there is some increase in revenue, but all of that revenue and more will go to K through 12 education because of what's called the McCleary decision, which was a Supreme Court of the state of Washington decision that said essentially that the legislature has not been and must fund K-12 education at a much higher level as required by the Constitution of the state. Some of that will be things that the state currently pays for but don't show up through property that will end up being shifted back to the school districts. But the short of it is that there really is not going to be much money in the state budget for roads or road maintenance or any other kind of capital expenditure. And so I hate to be a downer just before Thanksgiving, but the annual budgets for the state of Washington, understand that we've cut it on the order of 10% every year for the past 6. And so we're really way beyond belt tightening at this point. It's arms and legs that we're going to be cutting off.
Any other items from council? I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Second.
I've got a motion and a second to adjourn. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.